It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha! Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone. Brouhaha time here at WABO 105.5 on your radio dial. Marshall Wood and Dale McKee ready to brouhaha a little bit. How you doing, Dale? Ready to rock and roll?
I am ready, baby. We got the NCAA basketball out of the way, and Ole Miss and State got an SEC win. Great week.
Yeah. Let's start with the basketball deal. You know, I mean, UConn. Man, you know, I've been in and out of basketball, you know, through my years. Sometimes I've been in it, sometimes I hadn't. You know, there's been some great basketball programs through the years, but I'm gonna tell you what, UConn is making their statement to be one of the best in history, are they not? I mean, that's a great basketball program, both the women's and men's.
Yeah, I mean, the women probably get a little more notoriety, but but the men, you know, they just so impressed me last night early in the ball game was with San Diego State would come down and wouldn't even get off a shot. I mean, they were just overplaying the ball and you know, taking the ball the other way, and they were just so aggressive,
mm-hmm.
and it just held up for the whole game. They always kept about a double-digit lead there. I mean, I think one time it slipped under 10, but most of the time it was a double-digit lead, and they were the best team at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
You probably know this, but I don't. So I'm going to share this with a lot of I'm not going to not only share it with a lot of our listeners. I'm fixing to share it with every single one of our listeners is fixing to get this information. We're not leaving anybody out.
That's impressive.
All righty. Dominant run, UConn through the tournament with a 76-59 win over San Diego State. The program's fifth national championship. Only UCLA 11, Kentucky 8, North Carolina 6 have won more. Duke and Indiana have won the same. I'm gonna tell you what, that's royalty.
Yeah, that's getting up there.
I mean, that's
getting up there with the Blue Bloods.
Yes, sir. Listen to this. The Huskies 31-8 became the first team ever to win all 6 NCAA tourney games by 13 points or more. They finished UConn with an average victory margin of 20 points, fourth best since the tournament field expanded to 64 in '85. UConn has never lost a national title game. They beat Duke in '99, Georgia Tech in '04, Butler in '11, and Kentucky in '14. So hats off to the university.
Very impressive run there.
Yes, sir. We've got an interesting guest tonight. You know, it's Masters Week, you know.
It is.
And so you have selected us. I mean, you know, you rascal. I mean, you go out here and you tell us who you got.
Well, I've got a film director that...
A film director.
A film director.
Is there no end to where you will go for a story? A
producer, director. I don't know the distinctions between a director and a producer, but anyway, we have.
I'm gonna tell you the difference.
Okay.
One that gives people the money to do what they want to do, and the other just tells them all what to do. I think that's the way that works.
I thought the accountant did that. I got you. But anyway, his name's Matthew Russell. He's got a great Christian movie out, and it's about golf. And a lot of people that watched New Orleans NCIS would know one of the leading actors in it, Lucas Black, who was the old country boy down there in New Orleans from Alabama. He kept talking about Bama, Roll Tide. And so Lucas is the star of it. And but it's about golf. It's about a golfer that had a blow up, and then he has kind of wrecks his car in the movie, and he just kind of goes through that. But, you know, not to get long-winded about the movie, but it is a golf movie about a comeback. Yeah. And everybody loves comebacks. But it's got a great ending to it, a great ending that makes you think, okay, where's part 2 of this movie? You know, it just leaves you hanging.
Yeah.
But he's going to kind of explain all that to us today in his little get-together with us.
He had a blow up, and he wrecked his car. I've got a lot in common with that guy. I've had a blow up or two, and I've wrecked a couple myself, so we ought to get along.
Well, I guess blow up's not the word. Meltdown.
Meltdown. I've had that too. Meltdown. But anyway, without further ado, let's take a commercial break to hear from our fine sponsor, and then when you and I come back, we're going to have
Matthew Russell
with us. So we'll see you after this Brouhaha break. Be right back.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's like, I don't know how many listeners have watched the movie. It's not coming out on Netflix tomorrow. It's still living on Netflix and Amazon or someplace. But it's a pleasure. It's just a pleasure to have, when you commit so much of that your life to something like that, I should be the one thanking you.
Oh, wow.
No. Well, listen, first of all, I was contacted by David Fulmer, and of course he's a Baylor graduate, and I don't know, did you go to Baylor also?
I didn't. David's got a movie, and he saw the movie, and that's kind of how we got connected. I think I don't even really know. That was a long time ago. That was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I think he would tell you exactly how it happened.
Okay.
Now he's just like a brother of Christ, with me, and I just love that dude. It's crazy. It's asked me hey, when did you come out of the womb? When you know, you know. You didn't really know when it happened, right?
Yes.
I think that he reached out to a website or a Utopia website, got connected, and then I do know how I got here with you specifically today is I also put him in contact for a film that he's interested in doing and maybe has some legs for with a great producer, Academy-nominated producer. You can edit this however you want, but shout out to Mark Mathis, who's one of my closest friends who produced the movie as well. And so he reached out to Mark, and Mark got a hold of me, and so I reached back out to him. And but I've talked to David for a long time, and we've sat on the phone and prayed together. So honestly, thank you. That's not lip service. I appreciate being on.
All right. Well, for our listeners that don't know, David is from Laurel. He's not from Laurel, but he married a Laurel girl. A lot of our people may know his family he married into, and they were the Scopers in Laurel. And so anyway, that's kind of the relationship there with David, and a lot of our listeners probably don't know that. But anyway, I watched the movie 7 Days in Utopia that you helped.
Be easy on me.
Okay, on the screen.
Robert, hang on, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Can we start a party?
Yes, we can.
God bless their souls, but Siskel and Ebert reviewed it, and they said they would rather eat a golf ball than watch this movie.
Oh my goodness! Well, I'm just telling
15 years later, it's it's still playing. It's still bring hearts and yeah. So I don't know. They're not always right. They're not always wrong. But be easy on me. That was a bad way to start an inside joke.
No, listen, I really loved the movie. Of course, I really identified with two of your
actors in there. You know, one of them was Robert Duvall, which everybody knows, and another one was Lucas Black, who played on NCIS in New Orleans is the great Christopher LaSalle. And so I identified with them, and both of them just had great parts in the movie. Of course, Lucas is from Decatur, Alabama, and of course Robert is Duvall.
He's real tight.
Yeah, he's probably in his 90s now, and you know, but of course this movie was done in 2011, but it's still relevant to today because it does send a great message, a Christian message too.
And I think and you might clarify this, if I'm going down the wrong path, let me know. But Lucas Black ended up, it changed his life being in this movie, didn't it?
It did. It really, really did. I can't, this whole, gosh, I can't imagine your next questions, but like, peeling over like just the book of how God put this together, like you should be talking to God, not me. so I'll say that. Like, but yeah, we tried to get Lucas, and I'm not going to give out names or figures, but he was unattainable. And then we're like, well, all right, well, let's just shoot the moon then, because we thought we could at least get him at the time, and we ended up reaching out to Bobby D instead, and Bobby D said, yeah, I'll do it. And that kind of changed the game for everything. And then we went back to Lucas with, and I don't know, you don't have to edit this out of the radio show. We went back to Lucas after we had Bobby D attached, with an offer that was, I don't know, maybe 20-30% lower than what they were asking after we had Bobby D attached. And do you know what happened after that?
Well, I assume he took the offer somehow.
I'm asking you. He took the offer, and his agent got fired like 2 days later.
Oh, man.
He fired his agent, huh? Okay.
So it's crazy how God works, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, anyway, let me tell us about the movie, okay? I'd rather you tell us about the plot of the movie and where the movie took place and what a unique town it took place in.
I mean, the first, it was such a hard movie because it was based off a book, 7 Days in Utopia. So David Cook contacted me, and we just started talking and going back and forth, and over the years getting a script that you can even write to be presentable to ask people for millions of dollars of money. And if I could sidetrack just for a second to put it in perspective, I saw a great documentary on Sylvester Stallone. Now they got Creed 3 coming out. And this isn't like a pump. I'm not producing that, or I'm not involved in that in any way. But I watched a great film on Sylvester Stallone that it took him 10 years to get Rocky Balboa financed. After he spent, after the studios made billions on him, back in the day. I'm not a millennial, but I'm not too far removed. Back when that was a lot more money. And it still took him 10 years to ask for the studio for $1 million to do Rocky Balboa. And that should be a tax write-off for studios, because I've been in that market. I just kind of know what it is. And so that's context. I'm kind of talking in circles. When you direct a movie, you never see things scene by scene. So, you kind of just learn how to work in circles and talk in circles. But to put it in perspective, that's how hard it was to get the financing for the movie, because it was a faith-based golf movie that was kind of out of the box. And, now it's still plays, I don't know, 10 some odd, 15 years later, how long it's been. And that's, I don't know. I do think it's a God thing. I don't want to talk too much without answering questions. I don't want to get off on a tangent.
Well, listen, so what did you see in Lucas that you wanted him so bad for the lead part as Luke Chisholm, who was a great Texas, I guess, college golfer, and he's going to be on his first, in his first tournament, and he has a meltdown. So did Lucas fit the part perfect for you?
Well, I originally when I met Lucas, I'd heard all those stories, who's not a, scratch golfer and this and that. And then I saw him, hit with guys like KJ Choi and Ricky Fowler and Jimmy Beam, and he was just as good as all those guys, and he's an Alabama guy. The only thing he hated in the movie is that, you know, it was the Longhorns. Yeah, he hated wearing that Longhorn shirt. He's Roll Tide. But once I was able to pitch him on, like, you know, on all that, I kind of knew he was perfect for the part. And the other thing, I think it was like the 4th or 5th movie that he did with Robert Duvall at the time. And so they're like two peas in a pod. And Robert Duvall was our first cast. So I'd asked Bobby D, you know, what he thinks about Lucas. And he's like, you know, in a politically correct term, he told me, well, if that's on the table and you don't wrangle him in, I'm like, you and me might have some problems. And I'm like, all right, well, that's a good start to way to build a team. Like if I'm coaching pro football, and my quarterback says that, who's my first in, and he talks this way about the receiver I want to pair him with, like I just knew I had to make that all work. and those two together are like magic. They made my job so easy as directing the project. Like honestly, some days the hardest part was just to get them to stop acting like two little schoolgirls and giggling and laughing, because we still got to make our day and shoot all these shots, you know, to be able to do a responsible movie.
I still love that movie that Robert Duvall played. I cannot remember the name of it right now, but he had him and his brother on a little farm, and this boy walks up.
Paper Lines?
Yeah, Paper Lines. I don't know. I could watch that 100 times with Robert Duvall. He was just a great actor, you know.
He's done some pretty good ones. I will tell you, gosh. And, you know, it's not like you're talking to Steven Spielberg or Quentin Tarantino, but, like, I've been around the block, and I've directed, you know, pretty big, you know, actors over the course of my year. And, I don't want to call out any names, but...
well, we have the list,
know, like,
here. We have the
there
list.
Was a Hall of Fame. he's at the top of the list in my book. He really is. Like, he's a guy that comes, and he's the hardest working guy there is. And, you know, I think when we did that movie, he was like a little over his 80s. It's about 10 years ago. Still the hardest working guys, hardest working guy like on the planet. He would come on his own dime. This is a real utopia story. He would come 3 weeks early on his own dime, just to get to ride a horse and check out the lay of the land. And when he's on this golf course, wanted to ride all around it. And then wanted to go up, like, take that a little further. This is what a cowboy this dude is. Like, one of the greatest actors of all time, in my opinion. But like, his work ethic is uncanny. Like, what made Michael Jordan so really, really, really great? It was his ambition, his will to win, his work ethic. And I can say the same about Robert Duvall in the acting space. And so, like a little story, before we even started shooting, I asked him, I said, you know, Bobby D, why, you know, fine, I'm not complaining about, like, the producers would complain about money and your horses, and, like, but you even paid for everything. I'm like, why did you do that? And he's like, you know, Matt, like, if I just want to ad-lib because I'm in the moment with Lucas, and I want to point up that mountain over there and just go out of script and say, like, well, this is what happened, and take it on a detour, I would never do that, like, without pointing at a mountain that I've actually taken horseback of and can speak to it, so my memory could understand it, so it's real. And, like, that is the epitome of a best method actor in the world, in my opinion. Like, Bobby D is the best of the best.
Well, listen, on the Robert Duvall getting to his part in the movie, Johnny Crawford, he almost seemed like a mystery man in part of the movie. And you really didn't know he had any, he was, I guess, an outstanding golfer before this Johnny Crawford we were talking about. But was Johnny Crawford a real person?
No, so it's based off a book, and so it's a book adaptation is always different from a screenplay, because if you go to, and you could edit this out, but I was actually telling David this. A book is so different from like a screenplay, because if you go to a book, there's everything between like the Bible and everything else. There's books in first person, third person. You picture books that are 1,000 pages, books that are 10 pages. If you went to like a library, with movies, it's totally different. Everything is just totally different. It has to be 30 pages. All like 3-act structure, character arcs, all the things that they still teach you film school 101 at USC or any place else in the world. And the one thing about this book that was hard for the adaptation was it just took place with two people, and it took place with Lewis Black's point of view, and you don't even know his name in the book, and so it's always Johnny told me this, Johnny told me that, my dad said this, my dad said that, and you don't ever meet his dad. It's literally just, gosh, I haven't read it in a while, the book, but it's only it's a really, really short book. It's 9 chapters, and it's just about 9 chapters for 9 holes of golf with like lessons, but it's all written, first person point of view. So, from that expectation, from like a filmmaker, it was tough to, it was a lot to, there was a lot to change in the screenwriting process, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. I mean, that's a great clarification. But now, from what I've researched a little bit and been told about it, and I think you and I had a previous discussion, or I think we did. But anyway, tell us about the Utopia in the movie. This golfer, this hotshot golfer named Luke Chisholm, has just blown up on national television. He comes through Utopia, Texas, and he runs into a fence, and this is when Johnny Crawford kind of helps him out of it and gets him to a place to stay and gets him, things like that when his car's been fixed. But I guess, tell us about the movie's Utopia compared to what Utopia is in real life.
So that's a great question, and we didn't rehearse this, obviously, but it feels like a question like I'd ask if Jay Leno asked me it, back in the days, or so scripted. But we didn't talk about this at all. But there was actually so when we went to Utopia, and we shot it all in Utopia. That was the golf course that it was. And which is amazing. It's this 9-hole golf. It was this 9-hole golf course in the middle of nowhere in Utopia, Texas, and that's where it was. And the driving range was there. Everything's there, and so the cool thing about it is since we've done the movie, I wouldn't. It's not like driving to Disneyland and having to check that out. But they've made kind of a thing about it. So I've heard. I haven't been back since we shot the movie. But yeah, that's everything about the book to the actual golf course. To the film would be pretty much 100% accurate. I think the only difference if you drive by. I wouldn't plan a trip around it if your wife wants to go on a romantic trip.
Well, my wife wants to go after she watched the movie.
Utopia, Texas, you can now it looks like the movie. And it didn't look quite like that, but the oak tree's there, the driving range is there, everything's there. It's just been modified for the movie, and they never changed it, which is kind of cool. So you can actually go to Utopia and feel like you're golf in the Utopia golf course.
There you go. Well, listen, I've got two final questions because we're kind of running out of time, and we do appreciate your valuable time because I know we had a little scheduling issue about 3 or 4 times, so I'm glad that we were able to interview you, Matthew. You've done a great job, and we appreciate your work. But I've got 2 questions for you. Okay, first of all, I guess
the SFC question will be a little long, but it'll be a good answer.
All right. What about the quote in the movie? See it, feel it, trust it. How did that come about?
It comes like kind of, oh my goodness. As somebody like that directed the movie, you kind of like pick and choose your battles. I'll say this in a simple way because, 10 years ago I was a different person. I feel like we're all a different, person every, 10, 15 years and stuff. And I was so wrapped up in just the theatrics of the movie that I didn't want to end the movie that way. I'll spare the details, but I was pretty emphatic about it as a filmmaker just because I didn't want it to feel at the time like a 2-hour commercial. And this is one thing you can't edit out. But then since then I've got emails, just like people saying, they were going to commit suicide and saw that movie and it brought them to God. And it's never my intention. I didn't create that. But I feel blessed for being a part of it. So I can't take credit for that. The author of the book and producer of the movie, who also got all of the money raised for the movie, or most of it, a guy named David Cook, and I love him. He's a brother and friend to me, and he should take all that credit for chaperoning the reason why it still lives today, and all the hearts to heaven from that. That's something that I really can't take credit for.
Well, listen, you do have a lot of credit to take for that movie for sure. And like I said, okay, so the ending's very unusual. They don't really, I guess, finish like a regular movie to a certain extent because they see Luke Chisholm putting, but they don't really tell you if it goes in the hole to win his tournament. But let me ask you this. Is there a part 2 coming? And that's the final question.
Well, can I give you one other story just for your show? Because I feel like this one's going to play pretty good with how I got the movie. And it equates to SFC, like in my life and everything. But yes, to answer that question, and you could ask me again if you want to edit it different. I get it. If it's pre-recorded, you're just going to edit it like my takes go. So I would say, yes, we are in the works for a sequel. We'll just, if it comes, it'll be God's timing and it'll be with the right people. But David and I we've definitely talked about that.
Well, now, this is Marshall, and Matt, I want to echo what Dale said. We appreciate you being here. We talked about our time, and you said we were going to shoot for 15, and you said if we were short of that, you'd be offended. Well, we're at almost 25, so
all right.
you've done great,
yet.
Sir.
Hey, you haven't asked the right question yet.
Well, I tell you what.
You didn't ask me how I got attached to the movie or what does SFT means to me. If you ask me that, that's how you should start the show, I think.
Okay. Take that over, Dale.
Well, we were gonna do an introduction about you and tell them about your previous work and some things like that. But since you asked the question, we'll be like Jeopardy. Give us an answer. We'll reverse Jeopardy, and you give us an answer now.
So, all right, yes, sir. So I just had got finished with this other movie in Colorado, and that's how I met David Cook, who was the guy that wrote the book. And you know, and I did some other stuff like, you know, too, and he wanted to interview me to direct this golf movie. And so, like, the first question that you would ask somebody is, you know, well, what do you know about golf? If I was producing, like, a football movie, I'd say, what do you know about football? You know, and I was kind of a kid at the time, a little bit. Maybe I still am, but basically, I said, oh, I know everything about golf. I'm like, yeah, I golf. Are you a golfer? Was the first question he asked me. And I knew nothing about golf. I wrote, directed Utopia. At the time, like, I knew nothing about golf. Because fake it till you make it, kind of like plan, right? Not necessarily that. That's a cheap way of saying it, actually. But, like, for method actors, you a guy like Robert Duvall, or Dustin Hoffman, or Tom Cruise, or you could pick a million of them. They're not pigeonholed to the roles that are written for them. So kind of lied in the interview, long story short, and said, yeah, no, I know about golf. Like, and I'm just dreading this day where David Cook is asking me to go out and, like, golf with him, because I know it's coming. And when I started writing the screenplay, like, I didn't even, you know, I never even watched the Masters. Nobody knows this. Oh my God! Now it's been long enough that now everybody can know this. But when I first started writing the first draft, I'm like, oh hey, you know, we're at the Texas Open, and, like, so they're gonna shoot a shot and jump in a golf cart, and that's how they get around. No, like, I didn't even know you walked the holes, like, back then. But I did know I'm a good writer, and, you know, a good director, and I had confidence in it, and loved the team that he had, you know, started building, and loved the message. So I jumped for it. But I always knew there was going to be this day, to where he's like, all right, well, you got to actually play golf with me. So after I wrote the script, and, you know, took the golf carts out of it, like, because I had to check a few times before I sent it to him. It was pretty good. And so he's like, hey, come out to Texas, in Utopia. And he's like, we're going to go up to Fredericksburg, Texas, where we shot, like, the end film of the movie, play a little golf and stuff. And, I've been in, like, being a filmmaker, you know, writer, director, producer, like, I mean, you go into a lot of, like, hard, like, rooms. There was nothing quite like this, just because I knew David Cook, that wrote the book, and I haven't said too much about him on this call. Like, I mean, he's a mental, like, sports trainer at the time for Tiger Woods. And the only reason guys like Ricky Fowler, KJ Choi, and all those guys are in because of him. You know, he coached Shaquille O'Neal and David Robinson how to mental coach of, you know, how to make their free throws and stuff. So, not a guy that you want to, like, bullshit. And I just knew I was cooked, because I'm like, I told him I golf, but I've never golfed a day in my life. And he wants to go golfing with me, because I am this golfer that wrote this great golf script, right? So we go out, spend, you know, a night at his place, and it's great. And, you know, should have been my best day of my life, but it was the worst, because I knew I had to go golfing with him, like, the next day. And I crammed for it. You know, I've probably golfed, like, just went to the driving range for, you know, for, like, the month before, but, you know, it quickly told me, like, you can't cram for a golf test. You just can't. And so I went out with him, and we're on this big duel, and he's like, we're shooting all this in Frederick's Ranch. This was 10 years ago, about 10 years ago. Take or get some. And he goes, I can't afford this place. It's $100,000 a year membership, and gives me a big pat on the back as we're driving there, and I'm already, like, peeing my pants. he goes, I told him our director is a big golfer, and they're excited to see you with the Texas accent. And I'm like, so that made me a little bit more nervous. So we drive in, go through the pearly gates. They had just built this golf course where we shot the end of the movie at. And it's to this day, it's one of the most prestigious places like I've ever been. Just felt blessed of going in there. And then so we drive around like this big real estate. You can't even it's private invitation only. And I'm like, gosh, what am I doing here? I'm gonna have to golf in this course. So we pull up to the country club, and there's in his dually, and there's like a wine and cheese party, all ready to go. I'm like, oh my goodness. I kid you not. I never told David this. I hope he doesn't hear it. I should probably tell him. But I thought about actually hopping out of the dually and pretending like I sprained my ankle. so I could still direct the movie that I wrote and not have to actually golf in front of him, because I'm still kind of auditioning. And I ended up not doing that. So we have wine and cheese with everybody, and then we go, after that, it's now I know, I'm the show, and my lies are, way too deep. You could fake it till you make it, like I said, until a point where you're like, I faked it, I did that right, so I'm not going to make it. So they're like, oh, let's go get our shoes on. So what happens next? We go in to this prestigious country club, nice golf course, one of the nice golf courses in the world in Fredericksburg, Texas, and they've got, how, when you go in, the kind of special, you get, one of those slapped-on names on your locker. So first thing you see when you walk in says Matthew Dean Russell, and I kid you not, and, I've told this story to just family and friends. I haven't even told it to David. And now everybody's going to know, so I'm going to have to call him tonight. To the right of my name, knowing I've never actually really golfed before, especially with pro golfers, is a presidential logo. It says George W. Bush. And then I'm like, so that's a little intimidating. I look over to the left. Hey, guess what? There's another presidential logo. George W. Bush Jr. And I'm like, holy cow. And then there's 3 lockers, so yeah. So, I'm beyond intimidated at this point. If it was just, making movies, it'd be cool, because, I could do that, I just know that space. Golfing, that's pretty intimidating. So we go out. Man, it might have taken me an hour and a half to tie my shoes. I waited as long as I could. And then let's go out to the driving range. So the whole entourage follows with cheese and crackers and wine and everything. And we're like, all right. And everybody wants to see that first thing. And I'd been at the time, at least practicing on the driving range long enough to know I can hit a good one. And I read the script. I wrote the script. It's see it, feel it, trust it. So God, I'm trusting you right now, because this is real life me. This is a real story. I'm not fabricating any of this. I swear to God. Oh my God. And there was a part of me before, I twisted back, because I at least had good form. Went down to Paradise Valley for a month when I was writing the script, maybe 2 or 3, and at least learned a nice swing, so I didn't, swing like Charles Barkley or anything like that. And I'm thinking, maybe I can actually do this. And so I hit it, and I can't, explain it, as well on radio as if you were in the room. But when you hit, a really good shot, the tee just you just see it fly up out of, the left corner, and you just cracked the ball.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. And there's a whole entourage is behind me and stuff. like I swung, I heard it, like everything looks great. And as I'm talking to you, I'm at my house right now. I'm reenacting like my feet and my form and everything. And I saw that tee fly out like at the top left-hand corner of my left-hand eye, but I couldn't see where the ball went because there was a little like lens glare and the sun was directly above us. And then I just heard everybody like behind me laughing. And so I looked directly back at them, and they're all just laughing. And I had no idea like what happened. And I swear to God, I looked down.
No.
And the ball was right there.
You gotta swing on it.
I flipped that tee and thought I cracked it. The tee went flying. I would have looked for that ball forever. I would have just started like, oh, it's way over there, 350 yards away. Let's start walking. And the ball didn't move. I knocked the tee out, and the ball like dropped straight. Like Tiger Woods couldn't do that if he tried. Getting 10 times, he probably couldn't do that if he tried. And so that's see it, feel it, trust it for me. Like I looked back at David, and there was a few investors there, and it takes an army to make movies. So I had to tell them all, like, well, so I got something. I got a confession to make.
Let us guess.
And I thought I wouldn't finish. I thought I wouldn't finish the day without a job, but that's why God is good.
One thing about golf is most people are not very good at it. So you could have probably hidden a little bit. But anyway, that's funny. That's a good story. Oh, my goodness.
But so that's where See It, Feel It, Trust It comes from. Like, for me, it's baked in the book. And but that's, that's I don't know. It's just like, that's why I can, everything in life you feel like you're so wrapped up in, especially in movies. Everything is so important all the time, every minute of the hour and stuff. And it's really not. Like, I do feel like there's a bigger being like controlling us all.
Well, we're all just people, and we can mess up with the best of them. But anyway, that was a great story and a great way to end our time. Listen. We appreciate you. We appreciate the expression of your faith. I hear you talk about your faith, and we celebrate that with you, the faith in our Lord Jesus. And we wish you the best, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, brother. And, any other time you want to chat or connect, I appreciate it. Just all good people, always.
All right. Thank you so much. God bless you and keep you. And maybe
I got one question for you, too.
Okay.
Oh, Lord.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I watch ESPN a lot. So you got to make your picks. Who's winning the Masters?
Who's in it?
We're not that stupid.
Listen, hey, I don't know. It's so competitive on that tour. You might have somebody that we don't know, I guess a household name or something like that, but there's just so many good ones, and there's so many from different countries. It's just hard to pick in this day and time.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I'm not trying to avoid the answer. I'm just saying that, do I have a favorite golfer? I kind of appreciate all of them because, I know it's a different level. I've only been to one pro tournament in my life, and that was the U.S. Open. And I saw people like, what's the guy from San Diego, the left-hander? Weiskopf, I believe, and then there's the Tiger Woods was there, and of course I even saw some celebrities golfing, up to the actual tournament, like a Tony Romo, and Tony Romo was a great quarterback for the Cowboys, but he's also a pretty dang good golfer too. The way I looked at him that day, but that's just really hard for me to pick somebody. Now, if you ask me to pick somebody in the NCAA tournament, Final Four, I'd tell you the same thing. I don't know who, I mean, it's just one of those wild weekends in sports this weekend. But listen, we do appreciate you being on the show. And if you'll hang on just a minute, we're going to close for a second, but we'd like for you to hang on for just 1 second.
Of course.
We're going to take a break to hear from some of our sponsors, and we'll be back with the final segment of the Brouhaha right after this word.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
I'll tell you, what do you think? That was all that was cracked, all that we figured it would be. He is who we thought he was, as Denny Green would say.
Matthew didn't leave much out, did he?
No, he didn't. No? He didn't. Oh, but that was a lot of fun, and we appreciate you, Dale. We appreciate Matthew for being with us. You mentioned a little bit about baseball a while ago, and for last year at the end of the year, we was talking about Mississippi being the state of baseball, and that's all well and good.
The mecca of baseball.
I mean, what a difference a year can make. I mean, not 8, but I mean, you mentioned it. They each got to win. States 1-8, 16-13. The Rebels are 1-8. This is an SEC. 16-11. I mean, Golden Eagles are 5-4, 16-10 overall. So, but William Carey, man, they're stepping up.
William Carey and Belhaven are hot right now. Belhaven won 14 in a row, and the old Crusaders have won 11 in a row.
Yeah. So, but that's not really. Both of those teams do typically through the years have had some pretty good basketball teams, have they not?
Well, these are baseball teams.
Baseball. Yeah. see, I'm so hung up on UConn last night in that championship game. But anyway, okay. So we're talking about these are baseball teams, but they got good baseball teams. They got good basketball teams too, don't they?
Well, I like to correct your mistake. I love it.
I'll tell you what,
because you don't make you don't make any. You don't make any.
You're being kind now. You're being kind because you know how many I make. You're talking about we look at junior college baseball, and you talked about in your article this week, Sideline View, about the best junior college baseball played in Mississippi, Jones College, and Jones College is leading the MACC, Pearl River, Meridian, East Central, all right there, top spot. I tell you what I did I went to see a high school. I hadn't been to a lot of high school baseball games, but I went and watched Wayne Academy Jaguars play last night. Got a friend of mine that's got a son pitching over there, Cameron Scooter Carlisle, and he's gotten himself a scholarship to play for one of these teams you've got listed down here, these junior college teams, East Central. So to pitch, he's one of those sidearm guys.
Yeah.
And I think he was throwing in the 80s.
Really?
But, yeah. And
I would think Scooter would be more like a second baseman or shortstop that would run fast. I didn't know Scooters could pitch.
Well, Scooters can pitch. This one can. Okay. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
Congratulations to Scooter.
Yeah, he's got himself going to go to the next level. So we salute him and the Jaguars for the success they're having. They've beaten Oak Grove in baseball this year, West Lauderdale, Simpson. My goodness, they're having a good year. But anyway, anything else you want to say before we close out this edition of the Brouhaha?
No, I think you about wrapped it up.
That having been said, y'all remember y'all can keep up with us on Facebook at the Brouhaha, and all of our guests and shows that we've had over the past year, 2 years, however long it's been, are all archived on our YouTube channel that you guessed it, the Brouhaha. But for now, it's time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
And we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.